There was a poll done last year by the GAP organization that showed that this generation is actually more pro-life than our parents' generation. And I was reading a study not too long ago by two professors at Georgetown University, and it was really interesting. They're pro-abortion, so they're in favor of legalized abortion, and they were talking about this mysterious case of a disappearing pro-choice generation. Because they showed that the attitudes of this generation towards abortion and the attitudes of the generation coming up behind us, those in high school and middle school, are the most pro-life youth generations ever.
I left my job as a news anchor to be a stay-at-home mom and start a small media and marketing company from home. Just at the advent of the recession, I was hustling for new business, and I understood the difficulties of trying to get new clients in the middle of the deepest recession in generations. I understood the pain of the private sector and what it feels like to try and figure out how to make ends meet, even after you sell your house, even after you try and take every contract available during nap time, and even after you coupon as if your life depended on it. See, in Wisconsin, in our state budget, there were bill collectors that weren't taking coupons. Minnesota didn't want a little frequent customer card for our tax reciprocity agreement. We had raided our patients' compensation fund, and there were other bills left unpaid that we needed to pay. But back to 2010, when I decided that sitting on the couch and simply yelling at the TV for hours wasn't going to do the trick. After doing laundry and cooking, cleaning, raising 2 little girls, and working during nap time, I realized that if the leaders on TV were not going to fix the situation in the great state of Wisconsin, then fine, I'll do that too.
I'm not surprised that the agents in the IRS decided it was completely appropriate to single out and target and terrorize and harass conservative organizations. I'm not surprised. I think we will learn, because I've had enough conversations with conservative and Tea Party leaders around the country who were visited by the FBI. I think it will come out at some point that the FBI classified Tea Party groups as domestic terrorists. Or at least we're investigating them to see if they were domestic terrorists. Now, we can't do profiling based on the reality of who it is who's trying to terrorize the United States and commit acts of terror, but we can treat normal Americans who want to study the Constitution as somehow being frightening and disruptive to our future.
Clare believed that we are capable of fulfilling our dreams without compromising our femininity or forfeiting our core values. She would be so proud of the impact the Clare Boothe Luce Policy Institute has had on a generation of young conservative women and will have on generations to come. Congratulations from all of us, Michelle, for your countless good deeds. And thank you for continuing to honor my grandmother's memory in such a thoughtful and world-changing way. Thank you.
We saw things that troubled us at the polls. We saw process failure, insufficient numbers of volunteers, but we certainly saw election fraud, and I wish I could call it something other than that. We saw people who would come in with multiple registration cards in different names and present the one card, and then when the election judge would say, oh, no, that's been used. Oh, well, how about this one?
And a lot of those candidates were told, you can't win. A lot of people in the Senate. This whole fiction of electability. So the same year, we're told Romney should be the nominee because he can, quote, win, and did not. We're told Ted Cruz can't win, and did. So all I'm urging you today as we look towards 2016, and I'll wrap in a second, take questions. 2016, avoid the who can win, who can't win nonsense. It is meant to divide Republicans and is meant to discourage conservative candidates. We have 20 years of Democratic presidents, if you count these 4 of Obama, these next 4, with them defying you can't win. Somebody says on our side, so-and-so can't win, they're done for. They're done for. The donors all go toward who can win. The mainstream media, who can win. And then you start to get the conservative grassroots too, well, I don't like him, but I guess he can win. When the mainstream media tell you which Republicans can win, run the other way. They know exactly who loses in the end. They knew Romney would be the best foil against Obamacare.
We've got a big problem. We've got a president who has openly flouted the Constitution on a number of occasions. Let me just pick a few. You've got January 4th, 2012. He makes 4 recess appointments. Only one problem: we're not in recess at the time he makes those appointments. And in fact, just 24 hours earlier, we had opened the second session of the 112th Congress. This is the first time in American history any president has ever dared to purport to make a recess appointment at a time we're not in recess. And yet he boldly stood behind it. This is an example, one of many, in which the president has acted unconstitutionally, and too many in Congress have been inclined to do what many Americans have become inclined to do, which is say, oh, constitutional violation. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see if the courts do something about it. Well, the court that they're relying on, the big court at the top, is the same court that rewrote Obamacare, not just once, but twice, in order to save it. Rewrote it, and itself openly flouted the Constitution. If you read Article 3, there is no power vested in the court to legislate. No power vested in the court to make alterations to legislation that it deems unconstitutional absent those alterations, and yet it made them twice. Once in rewriting a penalty as a tax, and another time writing into the Medicaid expansion provisions an opt-out choice, an opt-out option for the states. They did that in order to avoid having to get into the severability analysis, which would have culminated in the court saying, with this hole in the ship, the whole ship has to sink. That's what the court does in severability analysis. When you take this part out, does the ship sail or does it sink? This one would have sunk. That's why they wrote that in. So it's one of the many reasons why I say you can't just wait for the courts to fix it, because the courts themselves have been openly flouting the Constitution. Not in every case, but in this one they did, and in others they have.